Thanks. This is Gustavo Ochoa for AETuts.com. In this tutorial, I will attempt to introduce you guys to Final Cut Pro, its basic layouts, some functions, and a whole lot of things you might want to know if it's your first time using the program. That said, I can proceed to welcome you to Final Cut Pro. As you're probably aware, Final Cut Pro is a non-linear video editing program. I'm using Final Cut Pro 605, which is the newest release. However, if you have an older one, that's no trouble because Final Cut Pro doesn't change significantly from an older version to a newer one. One thing about Final Cut Pro is that everybody I know uses it differently. Some people, for example, work only with this scroll down menu on the top, whereas others are constantly dragging their clips down and around, and yet others who work solely on command shortcuts. My goal is to teach you guys the basic things so you can develop your own way of working so that you're comfortable. Now, Final Cut Pro is composed of several windows which are independent of each other, which means we can reshape them, move them around, each of them independently. This is really convenient because if we have dual monitors, all we do is drag our canvas into the second monitor and edit from there, thus enhancing the editing experience. Now we have messed up all of our windows. To go back to our original composition, all we do is hit Control U, or we can go to our window, arrange, standard. At one time or another, you might find it necessary to minimize Final Cut Pro. If we do it one window at a time, it might not be the best idea. So what we do is hit Command H. The whole program is hidden. Or we go to Final Cut Pro, hide Final Cut Pro. To briefly describe our windows. The first one is our browser. It contains all the imported footage, and you will see how when we begin importing footage it will gradually fill up. Second window is our viewer. In it we preview and edit all the footage from the browser. Down here we have our timeline. This is where clips are put, and this is really where movies are arranged and start really looking like movies. Third here is the canvas. In the canvas, we preview whatever is going on down here in the timeline. Here's the sound levels. And these are tools, are very useful tools. To support and illustrate what I've been saying, I will now import footage into Final Cut Pro. Final Cut Pro supports a wide array of multimedia files and formats. To open our importing window, we hit Command I, or we go to File, Import, Files. For this project, I've made a folder which includes a sound file, a video file, and a picture. To select multiple items, we hit the bottom one, hold Shift and choose the first one and hit Choose. Files are now in the program and we can see them in our browser. If we were to take a closer look, we would see that they have an icon next to it. The little speaker means it's an audio file. The little film strip means it's a video file, and the picture, of course, means it's a picture. If we wanted to preview these, we double click them and we can see them right there. Same for the video and the picture. Now, if we want to put these into our timeline, it's as easy as dragging them there. Now, we just put a picture file into the timeline, and it's by default a 10-second clip. We do not necessarily want it to be 10 seconds, so we crop it. To do this, we take our arrow tool, and we can cut it up by grabbing either the beginning or the end and putting it whatever we want at our own convenience. Now, this bar means it's a picture file, but once we drag our video file, we would see three bars. the first one being the image file and the two bottom ones being sound. It's two bars because we are using stereo sound. Now if we drag our audio file here, we would only see two bars because it's audio and no picture. Now this red bar over audio means it's not rendered. To render and when it's not rendered, you cannot see what's going on. You get that beeping sound. So to render it, we choose it and hit Command R and hit OK to that. It was a really quick render because it was a very small file. Now to preview whatever we have in our timeline, we take our playhead, drag it to the beginning, and look at the canvas window. Now, if you look into your browser window and click the effects tabs, you would see a lot of effects that can really enhance and make your video look really good. I cannot take the time to show you all of them, but if you want to add an effect, you select whatever you want to add the effect to, double click that, drag the effect onto it, and we have added a tint. If we want to go to the effects control, we go into a viewer, filters, and here we can change the effect to make it look exactly how we want. Still in our viewer window, we can go to the motions tab. This is another great place for you to explore and customize your video by scaling it, rotating it, cropping it, and a whole lot of really cool things. I cannot take the time to show you all that, but I do once again encourage you to do so. One last thing worth noting in this tab is the fact that you can add keyframes very much like in After Effects. I will undo that. Now, sooner or later, you might find it necessary to add text to whatever you're doing. To do so, we go back to our Effects tab, click that, go all the way down to Video Generators, and all the way down to Text, which I have opened already, and take the text effect and drag it to your timeline. Like a picture, by default it's a 10-second clip that we can crop to our convenience. By default also it says sample text. Generally we don't want it to say that, so we double click it, go to its controls tab in the viewer window, and type whatever we want. Still in this tab, we can customize our text by changing its font, its color, and a whole lot of other things. I will use Futura font, which is a really good looking font. Uh, Now, if we look in our canvas, it's not the size we want it to be, so we take this down and make it how we want to be. Now, if we wanted to drag this around, we go to our canvas and we can put it exactly where we want. I have just taught you simple text, which is useful for subtitles, simple titles for your movie, and a lot of good things. Back in the timeline, the red bar is over our monkey video because we were adding filters to it, so it's unrendered and we need to render it again. We can hit Command R like I showed you before, or we select it, go to Sequence, Render, Both. There are a lot of rendering options as you saw, but I have found that to be the more useful one. As you will notice, this was a larger file, so the rendering time is longer than the first audio file. Okay, now we can, if we drag our playhead to the beginning of the clip, we can preview only that clip. I will now introduce you to the tools which can be found on the right hand side. Tool number one is the one we've been using, the arrow tool, which is used to select and crop, and it's probably the tool you're going to use the most in this program. The second tool I want to show you is the razor tool, which is used to cut up a single clip and make it into two of them. I'm going to undo that. Third tool is the magnifying glass tool, which can be used to zoom in into clips and even into our timeline. Finally, I will show you the pen tool, which is a great tool that is used to make fade-ins and fade-outs. So here's how you use the pen tool. Having selected the pen tool, you go down here to this button, the toggle clips overlays, and when you activate it, you will see that a black line appears in our clips. So suppose we wanted the text right here to gradually fade in, so we make one selection here and another in the front, dragging this one all the way down, and if we hit play, you'll see how the text gradually appears. Uh, Pen tool also works for the audio. For example, I think the sound on the monkeys clip is kind of too loud, so we just make one selection and drag the whole thing down, and we would have lowered the volume. And fade-ins also work with audio. If we wanted the cartoon accent to fade in, we make the two selections and we drag the first one down, and you would see how the audio fades in. The last thing in this tutorial are these little locks. They are very useful because, for example, if we wanted to separate the audio from the video in this one, it's impossible. No matter how we drag it, they're always together. So if we were to lock this layer, we are free to move our audio wherever we want. With all that said, I believe we have reached the end of part 1 of my Final Cut Pro tutorial. I hope you learned something, and if you have any doubts, please post them at the bottom of this video. Have a nice day.